Hello, boys! How many love songs are there all about how much love hurts? Have you ever had that experience? You're in love, or you think you're in love, or you're dating and it's all going really well, and then something happens that then it becomes really painful. It starts to hurt. You don't know why, you don't know how, but what started off being so good and so beautiful, and on paper it was so good, and then something happens that you don't understand, or 10, and you just want to pull away and protect yourself because you don't want to be hurt. You don't want to have your heart broken. And then you just end up wondering, well, love hurts, doesn't it? It's a bit horrible, and maybe I'm not cut out for it, maybe it's not for me, and so on. And perhaps you may have even given up on love altogether. You tell me, I don't know. Is that the case for you, yes or no? So I'm here to give you the very good news, as I do in all of my videos, especially the video called Men, There's Nothing Wrong With You and Here's Why. I'm here to tell you that when you do come up against these situations that cause you to pull away and to retreat, that's not your fault. There's nothing wrong with you or anything, I would argue, particularly that you're doing wrong at all. I assert that you're doing nothing wrong. You're not broken. You're not saying the wrong thing. You're not causing that difficult stuff to happen on a conscious level. Okay, it's not your fault. And I'm going to explain to you scientifically, prove to you why this is, that it's not your fault, because I'm here to remind you every day that there's nothing wrong with you. You are not broken, but the system within which you operate isn't so effective, and it's probably not conducive to having relationships that are effective. Okay, so I'm going to deep dive straight into this and explain what the possible cause actually is of that hurt. So first of all, when people talk about love, I don't know about you, but I think that the word love is about as loaded as the word money, sex and God and love in there. I think it's a very loaded word because quite often the word love, or I love you, has been used potentially insincerely. So if somebody's done something wrong, or maybe if somebody's hurt you, maybe it happened when you were young, something difficult's happened, potentially uncomfortable, and then the person that feels guilty may have said to you, I love you, you're right, I love you, it's all okay, I love you. So has that ever happened to you? So sometimes the word love can be used manipulatively, and the idea, therefore, it stands to reason, doesn't it, yes or no, that the concept of love and being in love and falling in love can be quite a prickly idea, if you'll pardon the pun. Woohoo! So what do I mean by that? Right. In order to explain this, I would like you to understand how your different levels of consciousness work. So what in the bleep do I mean by different levels of consciousnesses? Well, when you were a baby, when you were a little thought, even before you were a baby, when you were just an idea, you can imagine this to be like, sit down comfortably, I'm going to tell you a story. So one day there was a light, there was an idea in your mummy and daddy's eyes. There was a twinkle in their eyes and a star was born. The idea of you was born, and this created a union that then created two eggs to meet and say, yay, let's make a baby. And one egg said to the other, and the other egg said, all right, brilliant idea. So they got together and started to double and multiply and so on. Remember that from school, from sex education at school. Whoopsie. So a star is born. So at the beginning of gestation, so this is a story about creation. So when you're born, when you're being made, your expansiveness, or it has been said that your consciousness is totally vast. It's like this. Imagine, I'm going to illustrate it with this cushion. Okay, so there's this vast expanse of consciousness, like all the stars in the sky, but that sky goes on forever and ever and ever. And all of those possibilities are in that vast sky. So that field of mind, of consciousness, has been described by some as your superconscious, or your higher self, or the part of you that knows everything. Some describe this as the soul, the infinite self. So it's all possibilities are all there. And you're this gestating baby, and it's been said that even a few weeks into pregnancy, there is all of this activity going on miraculously. I don't know the biology in depth enough to prove that, but this is some research that has been said. Then what happens is you get born. Wah! Spank! And you get born. Right, okay. So imagine that's you, the baby, being born, okay? And you're just this tiny little infant. So when you're born, you're connected to your mummy. There, my doll's going to demo this. So you're connected to your mummy at that kind of level. And from the little infant's perspective, there is no separation between you, the little baby that's being fed and nourished from your mum, just like you were in the womb through the umbilical cord. You are still in that oneness perspective. You're still in the all that is, in the perfect oneness. However, then what happens is when you start to grow a little bit, you start to develop your self-conscious. So it's been described as individuation. So it's when you start to realise that actually I'm an individual. Mama! And then you start to grow a little bit and become aware and just look around you and realise that you're an individual and that your mummy's a separate human and that all the other humans around are separate and all the animals. So you become aware of yourself. So in this self-conscious identity, anything that happens, and this is why it's not your fault, so really important point coming up, anything that happens that makes you feel that your mummy or your caregiver isn't validating you or isn't paying attention to you, that will be perceived in your physical body, in your neuropsychology or nervous system as painful. That separation will be perceived as painful because you're not getting your needs met, you're not getting what you want. It could be anything at all. It could be something really innocent like, I want that toy, I can't reach it. Or I'm a baby but I want to run. I'm a little tot and I want to run and I can't yet run. So any little expectation, of which there are so many in infancy and tothood, there are so many expectations. If one or a few of those are not met, then that will cause the individual self, and it's painful, but it's just what does tend to happen, to create rules and beliefs. So what's a rule or belief? So that I'm going to demonstrate this, right? So if this thing happens, if I did this thing, for example, and then I didn't get the love as a little infant, then I'm going to create this rule, and this is created by the second level of consciousness called the unconscious. The unconscious creates rules in order so that next time that that thing happens to me that's painful, I've made up a rule about it so I don't have to go through that pain every single time. Does that make sense? So then in the case of, I'm going to just seriously try and balance. So there's mummy and baby. And I look like a mariachi here. There's mummy and baby. Then mummy, just for example, just needs to go to the loo. I remember when my mum needed to go to the loo and I'd be like, wah, wah, mama, mama. And I'd start to pour down the toilet. She said she even had to take me to the loo sometimes. I don't know if any of you ever did that too, but that's just me being totally honest with you. So that's because the infant, and there's no judgment in that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this potentially is why love further down the timeline is going to hurt. So then that little infant creates a rule of, if this happens, then that means I'm not lovable. It's a rule, which is a belief. A belief is just the way it is for you from your individuated perspective. So I'm going to repeat that. So say my mummy went to the loo. I was like feeling particularly clingy at the time, which is quite a common experience for me. Right, so she goes to the loo. Where's my mum? I can't see her. Wow, wow, wow. So then I create this rule, which is a belief, is this is how it is. And I create potentially a story that says, well, because I was doing that thing that I was doing just before she separated from me, or just before that painful event, then that must mean that I'm not lovable. For instance, that's just one rule, okay? Rules are beliefs. So so that I don't have to recreate that painful situation every single time it happens, I just create a rule, and then that gets stored in this hard drive here. And for now, I'm just going to call that the unconscious. And then this level here, the one that can see, hear, taste, touch, the human being me, that's my self-conscious, that's my individuated self. These are the rules I've made up about the world just because it just makes it easier to survive. And then what you get is the superconscious, the all that is. Remember that beautiful, vast sky that's infinite, the infinite self that has all the information about everything, because before you were just dated, when you were just an idea, and then when you were just a male cell and egg, a male sperm and a female egg, when you were at that level, the superconscious part of you, that intelligence, that higher intelligence, knew, I'm just going to be so proud of myself if I can balance this. That higher intelligence, that's the pink fluffy cushion, that part of you that is your super genius state, that part knew how to make you into the baby perfectly. So that's that part. Then you come into individuation, you get born, you start learning about life, and difficult things happen that are uncomfortable, that are sadly inevitable, but they happen and it's painful. And I'm sorry about that, but it happens. So then you create these rules here, which is, blah, blah, blah happens, therefore this is how it is. So these are the rules. So you could argue then, if you can see it this way, there's this all-knowing part of you that is this amazing, yummy, pink, fluffy cloud. But then because of things that happened, then I've created these programs. It's like programming some software, and I've created programming is like rules. And so I create the programs here, and that affects how I operate. That affects my operating system. That's how I operate. And then what's the relevance? Whoopsie doopsie. What's the relevance then between the three levels of consciousnesses and love hurting, or love being painful, or love just being like a bit of a country and western love song? Well, what happens is you go through your life and you meet the significant other, and then again, the same story is going to happen again. So something happens where your needs didn't get met. Could be something really small, like they didn't return a text, or they did this thing that was uncomfortable for you. Now, on the unconscious level, because you made up that rule all the way back when you were 1 or 2, then that rule is what's programming your operating system and your action. And can you see that that's not your fault? Because when you're a baby or you're an infant or a tot, you didn't have the awareness that you have got today. You didn't have all that life experience. You were not a bad person. You were not broken. You came perfect. So these programs just happen just because life is like that, sadly. And some people say that's how we learn. But without going into a very big existential debate about this, it's not your fault if you run up against a situation that triggers in the unconscious something that's painful and unresolved, undigested, because that operating system is just running. It's just running. It's automated. It's like an automated email campaign. It gets triggered with an event and it goes email 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, da, da, da. It's like an if-then situation. And life can be a series of events that just cause if-then responses to happen. Now then, the good news is, how do you get past that? How do you just get, wouldn't it be good if you could go, right, there's me trying to operate and do life and do relationships and all the rest of it. But then there's all these programs and beliefs that make me feel that there's something wrong with me, which, by the way, there isn't, but just in case if you're thinking that. Wouldn't it be good to be on your side? Grass is always greener over there. If I sing on Facebook, it edits it because it's like a copyright thing. I mean, who knew that? So back to the point. So what you can do then is you can, look, what if you could do this? You could just let go of those programs, reprogram, so create new programs, so that then you're just in your superconscious genius self. What if you could do that? Well, I got news for you. You can do that. You can do that. And the the mentoring that I offer serves to do exactly that. So the mentoring program that I offer, which, as I've said in all the other videos, is there's nothing wrong with you or the way that you're doing stuff. You're just in a system. You're in an environment that is ineffective. So you can, how do you change the environment and how do you restructure that? Well, you talk straight to the mother, not the mother. I'm thinking about computers there and the motherboard. But no, you talk straight to the superconscious. Now that's your infinite space, your space of knowing. It's called the flow state because it's the space where you have access to everything. All that is, all of it, all the stars, all the galaxies. To go back to and pull, this example is especially for you. I designed this talk just for you. So, because it's a programming metaphor. So the superconscious, so personality, the level number 1, personality number 1, which is your infinite, the part of you that's always there, always knowing, connected to everything, that's like having access, easy access to all the programming languages in the world and all the OSs in the world, all the operating systems, all the possible configurations of code. Like, it's like having the whole everything at your fingertips. It's like you're the mega monster brain programmer that knows everything. Well, in the superconscious, you do, because in flow, in the book about flow, it states that in superconscious, which is your higher self, your intuitive self, your infinite self, there in that big expanse that you can learn to access with this program, or with other ways as well. There's other ways of doing it. The way I'm offering to you is a quick fast track access. You can access anything you want, and then from there, from all those programs, all those possibilities, you can restructure the way that you operate from the highest possible potential, but you can release and you can you can create new beliefs that serve your high satisfaction and your high success instead. So I'm going to repeat that because it's really powerful, and this is how powerful you are, because you are not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing even wrong with your operating system, which is your present reality, which is your self-conscious, your individuated self. There's nothing wrong with that, because I'm in my individuated self. Everyone is. Otherwise, you'd go out into the road and walk into the cars and you wouldn't have a sense of you being separate from the other people and the other cars. So you need your self-conscious and you need your unique perspective, and never stop changing your uniqueness. Your uniqueness is precious, precious, precious. So, million reasons why there's nothing wrong with you. Is that clear to you? Yes or no, boys? So what happens then? Back to the example at the beginning. So you're dating or you're in a relationship and suddenly it's like, difficult, painful, uncomfortable. It triggers all memories number 2. So here's my self-conscious, then I go into memories here number 2 that were created a long time ago, before I consciously created, which is why it's not your fault. But then on top of all of that, and what fills up the whole sky is actually where all the love is. Like, the love really, really is here. So when people say, and all the country and western songs and all the rock songs, every rose has its thorn and all that kind of stuff. Yes, I am an 80s kid. Love hurts. Yes, it does when it's here, but actually that's not real love. If love hurts, it's only because, and there's nothing wrong with you or anyone else, and nothing's personal. It's just because triggers have come up against here, and those beliefs, which is the rules that you made up very long time ago about how it is in order to survive and belong to your family and ensure that you were cared for when you were an innocent, vulnerable, 100% dependent human being. Those rules just got made there, and that's the way it was. And then what needs to happen next is a bridge and an initiation, so that you create your pathways, you rewire this, and you create your pathways to your infinite self, which is your source of genius. It's another description of that is source, or the creative source, because you are very, very powerful and you're a powerful creator. You can create whatever you want, and with the work that I offer, which is the male kind mentoring, because it's specifically aimed at you, the boys, is you have access to that, and I'll teach you ways of restructuring and having access to your superconscious, because then you can create relationships that really work, that are loving, that really exponentially have more love, more joy, more creativity, more fun every single day. And I can tell you that for a fact. That's what I experience. And I know the roadmap to that, and it's not that hard, because there's nothing wrong with you. It's just a structural inefficiency, not a personal inefficiency. All right, then, I'm going to leave that there because I don't want to blow all the circuits, and I hope I haven't talked for that long. And I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Yay! Thank you, Cheapy and Dolly, for demoing that. Thank you. Thank you. And call to action, if you want to have a one-to-one with me and ask me questions about how this will work for you, then I'm going to put my booking link on there, and we can just explore and talk about that. And also your download freebie, the crucial 10 things that every man needs to know about communicating more successfully and with more satisfaction with women. So for that, I'm going to put a link there as well. But if you're listening to this, it's my website, my name, mariaadriana.co.uk/10-things. Thank you so much, and stay amazing, and go forth and shine and get creatively geniusy, because you are the boss. You are Superman. See you tomorrow.